students struggle with maintaining a healthy diet. Poor choices lead to bad habits, which eventually lead to an unhealthy body. Today's edition of In Focus will center on proper nutrition as well as covering the ever-important topic of losing weight. I'm your host, Bahar Shadare, and joining us today is the Health and Counseling Center's Health Education and Promotions Interim Director, Nari Darst. Welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to get right into it. What is proper nutrition?
Well, that's a big question for sure, but to give kind of a summary, proper nutrition is something you're already very familiar with. It's something that you know from grade school and the food pyramid. It really consists of eating a balanced diet that has some variety in it and has components from all the food groups. Grains, especially whole grains, fruits and vegetables, lean protein, and lean dairy.
And what are the portion sizes? How much should you eat of each? Because I know a lot of people overeat.
Yes, portion sizes are a big issue for everyone. So I brought some models for us to go over today in terms of each food category, what proper nutrition looks like. So in the grains category, carbohydrates are an area that a lot of us have some phobia around. There's a lot of diet mythology that you should not be consuming any carbohydrates, and in fact that's incorrect. So let's go over what healthy carbohydrates would look like. An appropriate serving of grains would look like a single slice of bread. Whole wheat is definitely a little bit better than white. It's going to keep you more full and it has more nutritional value. In terms of a bowl of cereal, most of us have a much larger bowl than this little tiny 1 cup serving, but a single cup of cold cereal is a portion. And then in your cooked grains, that's where most of us have a lot of difficulty around portions. So a single serving of rice is actually only a half a cup, and this is a very small amount of rice. A whole cup would be technically 2 servings. So this is a whole cup of pasta, a single serving and 2 servings. You should have about 6 servings in the day. So it would make sense to have a whole cup of pasta at dinner or a whole cup of rice at dinner. But if you think about maybe the classic Italian meal, a lot of us are going to have some garlic bread and a very large plate of pasta, probably significantly larger than this, and maybe even a slice of cake at the end of dinner. So that might total up a minimum of 4 to 5 servings at one meal. And remember, I just said about 6 per day is what you're looking for. So a lot of us do tend to overeat in that category just based on portion size alone. Now, in fruits and vegetables, it's a little bit easier. A whole piece of fruit is typically a good rule of thumb for a single serving. A half a cup of smaller berries or grapes. You really can't overdo it in fruit. It's hard to get too many calories from just your fruit unless you're drinking a lot of your fruits. So it's very easy to drink 10 oranges in a bottle of Minute Maid orange juice. If you've ever sat around squeezing your oranges, you know that it takes about 10 or 12 oranges to make a really small cup of juice. And when you just buy that juice of that bottle of Minute Maid, you're going to consume a lot more fruit than you would actually eat. Vegetables as well, you're looking for about 2.5 cups a day. And these are half cup serving sizes of vegetables. To get the recommended amount of fruits and vegetables throughout the day, you want to have about half of any plate at breakfast, lunch, or dinner in fruits or vegetables. So that means half of your breakfast should be fruit or vegetable, half of your lunch should be fruit or vegetable. That's how you really meet the requirements in that category. And then in low-fat dairy, we're looking for about 3 servings a day, a cup of milk, a cup of yogurt, about a slice of cheese. This is an ounce of cheese. And in low fats or lean cuts of meats, those would be about 3-ounce portion sizes. And you're looking for about 6 ounces in the whole day. So you need 2 servings of meat or some other type of protein source. Maybe your beans or nuts or tofu if you're vegetarian. This is a serving size of fish. It's about 4 ounces and a 3-ounce burger patty. And you'll notice this is a pretty small burger if you compare it to a Carl's Jr. $6 burger, which is substantially larger. Again, it's pretty easy to overconsume in the protein category.
Absolutely. And what are the roles of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates? If you're lacking in something, what does that do to your body?
Well, all food can fall into one of those three categories. They serve a lot of functions, but to give you just a kind of rough overview, carbohydrates are our primary source of energy in the body. That's what you're burning when you're sitting in class trying to focus. That's what your brain is running on. It's also what you're burning when you're exercising at the gym. So that's really the fuel tank to the car that is our body, right? Protein helps to rebuild damaged muscle and tissue lining, and we do damage to our body all day long. Digestion damages the stomach lining. When we're, lifting weights or creating micro tears in the muscle, that's what we're supposed to be doing in order to gain strength.
Yeah,
the protein that we eat is used then is broken down by our body and used to rebuild those muscle tissues. And then fats are also used to rebuild the cells in our body. If you think back to biology, every cell has a fatty lipid membrane, and that is replaced each day by the fats that we eat in our diet.
And is variety important? Because I have oatmeal for breakfast every day. Doesn't matter where the nutrients come from as long as you get them. And I love oatmeal. I'm not bored with it. Go ahead.
Are you asking me if it's healthy to eat oatmeal every single day?
Yeah, the same food.
It is absolutely healthy to eat the same breakfast every single day. Variety is good for getting a wide spectrum of vitamins and minerals. However, what most people fall victim to is the boredom factor. And so if that's not a problem for you, that's okay. But a lot of us who are trying to make healthier changes might decide, okay, it's January 1, I'm going to eat some oatmeal for breakfast every single day for the rest of the year. And by week 3 of January, it's getting pretty boring. So that Egg McMuffin is looking super appealing on the drive into school, right? And that, in that respect, it's good to have a little bit more variety built into your healthy diet plan, just because you're going to have to mix it up, and no one can eat exactly the same thing every single day for years and years and years.
Yeah, maybe. So when people go shopping and they look at the food labels on products, what should they pay attention to? What's so important that they need to know?
There's a lot of information on those food labels, and I think they're confusing to all of us. And I'm a nutrition expert, and sometimes they're a little bit confusing to me. So the first guidance I would say is just to take it with a grain of salt. If you don't eat a healthy diet right now at all, that nutrition label is probably not going to help you all that much. Really focus on getting more sources of fruits and vegetables into your daily lifestyle, choosing leaner sources of grains and proteins and dairy. Don't bother too much with the calories, because you're not focused enough on what you're eating already. But if you're looking to reduce your weight overall, it can help to limit your overall calorie consumption, so you might want to look at the calorie number total. If you're looking to prevent some diseases like cardiovascular disease, if you have a family history of heart attack and stroke in your family, then you might want to highlight into the saturated fat line and reduce how much saturated fat you're consuming. In that case, it can be specific, but you've got to know some other information about what you're supposed to be eating overall. Right? It's not helpful to know that your snack has 200 calories if you don't know how many calories you're supposed to eat in the whole day.
Right. Now I'm going to switch the topic to vitamins and supplements. A lot of people may not feel they need to take them. Who needs to take them?
Well, if you're eating a well-balanced and varied diet, the answer is you don't need to take one. But that's not the average college student, right? So in general, we do recommend that most people take a multivitamin just to fill in the gaps that they're missing. A lot of young women can benefit from a little bit of iron in their multivitamin or calcium. And if you're just not eating fruits and vegetables, you might be missing a lot of other areas. So a good solid multivitamin is recommended for all people that don't eat as well as they'd like to every day. And then some people with individual diets, vegans and vegetarians, might need 1 or 2 vitamin supplements, and they can talk with a dietitian or with their primary care physician to get recommendations on that.
I do take vitamins, and if the label says that it provides 100% of the daily value of vitamin C, let's say, does that mean I don't need to worry about getting vitamin C for the rest of the day?
Well, it means you've met your recommended intake of vitamin C. So technically, yes, you have met your needs. You're not going to suffer any vitamin deficiency in that area. But a vitamin supplement is not a replacement for real food. So just taking a multivitamin doesn't mean you don't need to eat any fruits and vegetables. It means that you're filling in the gaps and you're preventing a vitamin deficiency. But you don't get any fiber from those vitamins, which are, it's real fruits and vegetables that have those vitamins are rich in fiber. You're not getting any hunger satisfaction. So a vitamin is not a replacement for real food, but you have met your needs for the day in vitamin C.
And on the same note, if it says that it provides 150% of, let's say, vitamin C, it's an excess. So does that harm your body if it's an extra amount?
When we're talking about vitamin C, no. And all of those percentages are based on what the minimum is to meet your needs and prevent deficiency. So there's a very different number called the upper limit that we use to define toxicity levels. And especially when we're talking about supplements, it's good to know what the toxicity levels are of any specific supplement you're taking. Supplements are not approved by the FDA. So it's important to know that you're not taking extreme quantities that put you at risk for toxicity. But in most cases, 150% extra is not any harm to you.
Good. Now I'm going to ask you something that I've been told to do for a very long time, and that's drinking 8 cups of water a day. So is that true? You have to drink 8 cups of water a day to be healthy?
The guidance on that has really changed over the years. So it's no longer a hard and fast rule that you have to drink 8 cups of water. You do need a certain amount of fluid every day based on your physical activity and your body size. But we get a lot of that from food. We get it from other beverages now. Water is certainly the best source of hydration for your body, especially when exercising intensively. Most people don't need a sports drink. Most people don't need a vitamin water. You don't need a Starbucks Frappuccino for your liquid source. So I'd still say that trying to drink more water than any other beverage is a good guideline to follow, and 8 cups is a safe recommendation. So it's a good goal to strive for.
Okay, I will do that. College students can be very busy, especially around semester examinations, and they consume a lot of caffeine. So where do you draw the line? Where does it become harmful for your body to get more caffeine?
I'm a coffee lover myself, so full disclosure in that respect, I completely understand students that consume a lot of coffee. Yeah. The safe recommendation is 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day, and that would bring you to about 400 or 500 milligrams of caffeine if we want to talk about it in terms of numbers. Caffeine can definitely have some negative symptoms for your body, and that's really for the individual to assess. So if you're having extreme shaking, or you're not being able to sleep late at night, or you're very jittery or feeling over-energized, those are all warning symptoms that you need to reduce your caffeine consumption, and that'll be for the individual to assess. There are levels at which caffeine can become toxic and even lethal. It's very hard to reach those levels with just coffee and tea and even energy drinks. But someone who is drinking a lot of energy drinks all week long during finals might get closer to that limit, and certainly someone who's taking caffeine supplements to try to study late at night would be putting themselves at risk. So caffeine supplements and very high caffeine content energy drinks are not recommended. They can be very dangerous.
Is there something students can do to get energy without consuming caffeine?
Well, there are lots of ways that you already know, yes. Like getting sleep every night. It's very undervalued by college students, this mythical unicorn called sleep, but in fact it does re-energize you. So taking time every single day to get 6 to 8 hours of sleep will help you feel energized all the time. As well as things like exercise, taking time for relaxation, doing meditation. All these things can bring energy back into your daily life without caffeine.
Okay, only if they listen.
Right, it's spoken from a caffeine lover.
So now I'm going to ask a question that's going to transition into our next topic, which is losing weight. There was a time when I weighed only 115 pounds, and I'm almost 5'8", so that was very thin, and food was barely ever on my mind. So I just would go through the day without really thinking about food. And I was getting a lot of compliments. until my dentist told me that I had bone loss in my teeth. So that's when I realized that healthy people do not have to necessarily be thin. So my question first is, what should people know about bone loss and how can they prevent that from happening?
Well, I'm really glad that you brought up that point. Skinny does not automatically equate to healthy, and overweight does not automatically equate to unhealthy. Now, to address your question about bone loss, our bodies require a certain amount of calcium every single day to maintain our blood pressure. So regardless of how much calcium we're consuming from low-fat dairy or other sources, the body is going to get the calcium it needs, and it has a whole store system in your bones. So if you're not consuming enough calcium every day to meet your daily needs, and it does have to be done daily, we don't store calcium anywhere except of our bones, and we stop doing that pretty young in the mid-20s. So if the body isn't getting enough daily calcium, it's going to leach it out of the bones in order to maintain your blood pressure. Our bodies are smart enough to keep us alive, but that often means bone loss in some individuals.
So how much calcium do you need for, do people need for just to prevent bone loss? Is a how many cups of milk, for example?
In cups of milk, it'd be a little over 3 cups of milk a day, or 1,000 milligrams. A lot of people now augment their calcium intake in supplements, so 1,000 milligrams would be the goal for supplementation as well. And it is ideal to consume it in food sources. Your body absorbs calcium very gradually throughout the day. So if you take a big dose of calcium in the morning of 1,000 milligrams, your body won't absorb all of it. You have to take it in smaller increments. So it's very recommended that you learn to eat low-fat yogurt, that you find a milk alternative if you're lactose intolerant. If you don't like milk, that you find your dairy and calcium from other sources.
Okay. Now I'm going to go to losing weight. Is there a way to lose weight quickly, but in a healthy way?
There is, but it might not be what you would define as quickly. So quick, healthy weight loss is about 1 pound to 2 pounds per week. That actually is very fast when you're living that way. It requires a lot of change to produce that much weight loss. However, because we live in a dieting society where you see TV ads all the time advertising diets that will allow you to lose 10 pounds in a weekend, which by the way will not happen and it would be water weight. But because we have this perception that that is fast weight loss, a lot of individuals who try to lose weight and are being successful at the 1 to 2 pounds per week rate feel like that's a failure because it's not 10 pounds in a week.
Right, and a lot of people get stuck in yo-yo dieting as well. Is there a reason that a lot of people get stuck in yo-yo dieting? Is there a way out of it?
Well, I think it's pretty understandable why people get stuck in yo-yo dieting patterns. We're constantly being advertised new diets, so there's constantly a new diet craze, and these diets are extremely restrictive. So number one, a lot of times they eliminate an entire food group, right? They might eliminate carbohydrates entirely, or eliminate protein entirely. And your body needs those foods. So your hunger cues turn on even stronger for those types of foods. If you're deprived of carbohydrates, you're going to start craving carbohydrates because your body needs them and it's trying to keep you in line with good nutrition. But that means that you, the person who's trying to diet and trying to stick to the diet, feels like you're failing, right? You feel like you've fallen off the wagon, you've stopped with the diet. And the reality was that the diet was far too extreme to maintain. You were set up to fail. So the yo-yo dieting cycle happens over and over again as you get motivated to lose weight, you adopt something totally unrealistic, and then inevitably fail the diet.
There are a lot of apps on, I have a couple on my iPhone, such as MyFitnessPal and Lose It. So basically they keep track of how many calories you consume during the day, and you become aware of what you're eating. And they tell you based on the number of calories that you're consuming, when you're gonna lose your weight. So my question is, they care about the overall number of calories. They don't tell you, cut protein, cut fat. They just count the calories that you're consuming. So as far as losing weight, though, it's the number of calories, correct? It's not the type of calories ultimately in the end. Even though you should keep a balanced diet, I completely understand that.
It's true. Weight loss does just come down to numbers. It comes down to calorie math. your calories are like a food budget, and if you go over the budget, you're not going to lose weight, you're going to gain weight. And if you stay under the budget, you will gradually lose weight. However, like you mentioned, the math of weight loss is not equivalent to a healthy lifestyle. So you can lose weight eating really unhealthy foods and still put yourself at risk for diseases. You could still develop high blood pressure because you're consuming foods, all these processed dieting foods that have a lot of sodium in them. Or you could eat really a healthy, balanced diet and be unexplicitly or unexplainably gaining weight because you're over-consuming them. You're eating too many calories, but they're good, nutritious foods. And maybe then you're at a lower risk for heart disease, even though you have a little bit of extra weight because you eat a diet low in saturated fat. So they're not equivalent, losing weight and eating healthy. Trying to do both at the same time is a delicate balance.
And does it count when you actually eat? Because there are a couple of myths, I don't know if they're a myth or not, but for example, not eating 3 hours before bedtime, or not just, making sure to eat breakfast, or not eating, I don't know, there's just a lot of rules, but you can clarify on those.
Yeah, so let's clarify on those. You should eat a breakfast every single day within about an hour of waking up, and that's good for just general nutrition, for getting your metabolism started in the morning, and therefore also great for losing weight. Then you should be eating about every 4 to 5 hours after your breakfast. You shouldn't go more than 6 hours without some type of food. So that means if you're in class from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m., you've gone 8 hours without a meal if you don't plan your lunch and take a break to eat that lunch. And that's a problem that many students fall victim to. Now, in the area of eating late at night, that actually is a myth. It's perfectly fine to eat late at night. Your body is much smarter than to have to eat on a timeline. It doesn't know that it's midnight or 12 p.m. and your metabolism keeps running even when you do go to bed. The reason that eating late at night can cause a lot of problems for many individuals is the behaviors we tend to engage in at night. So we're more likely to have that big gooey brownie with ice cream after a full meal that was more than enough calories at the meal, and we're adding extra calories to it. And on top of it, they're not the most nutritious source of calories either, right?
No.
Or another scenario would be a group of college students going out to a bar and having 4 or 5 drinks and stopping at the pizza place on their way home. Although that's safe drinking behavior to eat food after consuming alcohol or during consuming alcohol, it's a lot of extra calories to consume that you probably didn't need. It probably wasn't the healthiest dinner in the world to have pizza and beer for dinner.
Absolutely, I agree with you. I have another question on the same topic of metabolism. Is it also a myth that you have to eat 6 times a day, let's say, instead of having 3 big meals so that your metabolism stays up?
That depends on the person. There's no hard, fast rule that you have to eat 6 small meals a day or you have to eat 3 meals a day. It's up to you to decide what works best for you. You do need to have at least 3 meals a day, and you do need to have something in the morning after you get up. You need to have that breakfast. But otherwise, it's really up to you to gauge. Some people will have very small meals more frequently, but they feel like they're constantly hungry or they're constantly having to eat, and they don't have time to work that into their schedule. Other people have a very intermittent class schedule, for example, and so it makes sense for them to have a small snack between each class because they don't really have enough time to sit down and have a real meal. Or it's easier to bring snacks to campus than to bring a whole meal that needs to be refrigerated. So it's up to you to decide what works best for you, and either option is fine.
Okay, awesome. So I don't want to ignore this topic. Vegetarians, what should they watch out for? What are the points that they need to be aware of?
Well, it's actually very easy to get all your protein needs met when you're a vegetarian through nuts, beans, tofu, tempeh. There are a lot of great artificial meat products out there that are made of wheat gluten and soy and other ingredients that do meet your protein needs. Some vegetarians might need a supplement in B12 or zinc in some cases, although a lot of companies now even add those to soy milk because there's such a common deficiency among vegetarians and vegans that you'll find B12 in a lot of soy milk. But the common victim that college students, especially college vegetarians, fall victim to is that they're eating out a lot. And it's hard to find good quality protein sources at a restaurant. So you might switch from a cheeseburger to a grilled cheese, and you've taken out the protein patty, but you haven't made it a more nutritious meal. So a lot of students who try to go vegetarian as a health move aren't successful because they're still not choosing a healthy diet in general.
I see. Since we're almost approaching the end of our show, I want to ask you, if you run into a student and the student's stressed out and they're not eating healthy, it's been for a year, what is your advice to him or her?
Is this advice to you?
No. Well, maybe.
Okay.
I'm not telling.
Well, if I had to pick one piece of advice, I would say to put some energy into packing your lunch or to bringing food with you to campus. It's pretty hard to meet your fruit and vegetable needs given just what's available here on campus. You can buy a piece of whole fruit, you can buy a side salad or some edamame, but most of us don't think to do that. The scone is a lot more appealing than the apple. So take that energy that you would like to devote to being healthier and put it in the night before or the morning of to pack some food to bring with you to campus. Bring a couple snacks, pack a lunch, and that's a great way to start making at least one or two of your meals every day a little bit healthier.
Now, a lot of students may know that, but they don't do it. It's always a question of doing versus knowing. What is your advice to them if they're just habituated to just doing it in an unhealthy way?
Well, I mean, that's not just students. We all know what it looks like to eat healthy, right? This is not rocket science. Everyone struggles to make it a reality in their day-to-day life. So the recommendation I'd have is to start small, to start with some very tangible goals and pick a couple things that are at the top of your priority list, maybe just 2 or 1, and really put your energy into it. So if you really want to eat healthier, make it a priority to eat a breakfast every day before you go to campus. And set yourself up for success in a lot of different ways for that. Have some breakfast options at home. Put some granola bars in your car. Know where you can grab a quick breakfast on your way to class on campus so that you have a lot of strategies to be successful in that one area. And then once you get that down, go on to the next step. Then tackle something a little bit bigger, adding more lean dairy into your diet every single day.
Awesome. What got you interested in the health field?
Well, I actually started as a peer health educator at my university as an undergrad student, and we have a similar program here at Cal State Fullerton through the Student Health Center. We have something called the Peer Health University Network, where students can get involved doing nutrition education for other students, as well as education on a variety of topics: safe alcohol consumption, tobacco cessation, vaccine information. So if any student was interested in learning more about health promotion and getting involved in it, that would be a great start for them.
Awesome. And my last question is, there are a lot of unreliable resources online that people shouldn't really read. For example, the myth that you just cleared. What are some websites people can go to get some correct information about nutrition and health?
Well, I would actually recommend the USDA website, choosemyplate.gov, the National Institutes of Health, some of the more boring research sites that you're going to reference for class. And a lot of students actually go on to something like myplate.gov and they see that it's, a bunch of information about fruits and vegetables, and they feel like, well, none of this information really applies to me. I already know that information, and that is true, right? We're a lot more drawn to fad information, Dr. Oz's recent release of a new research study, but that information often isn't peer reviewed. It isn't something that would be valid for you to cite in your paper in class. And that's because it's not solid research yet. Just looking at one research study about the benefits of goji berries does not mean that that's sound health advice. It has to be, every research question has to be reviewed by multiple sources, and you always have to look at who's done the study, how many people participated in the study, what was the methodology for analyzing the data. And those government websites have done that. So those are really the responsible places to go for nutrition information and health information in general. Don't go to WebMD or ask.com.
Oh.
Go to the places where they're really reviewing the research and can give you good, solid recommendations.
Okay, well, that was very informative. Thank you for sharing that information with us. We hope you enjoyed this edition of In Focus. I'm Bahar Sharare, and thank you for watching.